Hi everybody, and sorry we had a little bit of technical issues, so now we are just sharing a PDF instead of a PowerPoint, and the scrolling will not be that smooth as before. So first of all, thanks everybody for being here. I'm Luca Basilico, and actually today we will speak about how, let's say, in a regulated market, tokenization and ICO are treated. So actually also I have to thank my previous speaker, because actually a lot of topics he already touched something, so actually probably we can go faster, or anyway probably for you will be a repetition of the point, so it will be super nice for you. So actually in terms of background, I've been working in the financial industries for the last 10 years almost, mainly focusing on the liquidity management and the regulatory market, so dealing with the regulators in different jurisdictions. And that's why, let's say, here now, of course, blockchain comes into the play, because, of course, Switzerland, which is the place where I'm based at the moment, is like one of the main countries where blockchain is probably, let's say, if you are in the blockchain sector, probably is the place to be. There is a city in Switzerland which is called Zug, spelled like Z-U-G, which is also called the Crypto Valley. And that's the reason why, let's say, a lot of companies are based there and founded there, like Ethereum. You should be aware about it. Actually, Ethereum Foundation is based in Zug. And let's say also connecting with what has been said before about digital voting, there was like an example, 2018, there was a test done by this city where citizens were able to, using the e-eligibility, also to go and vote. So that's actually good stuff. So in terms of background, since exactly this is the place to be in terms of Europe, when we speak about blockchain, of course FINMA, which is the Switzerland regulators, start receiving a lot of requests in terms of ICO, issuing new tokens, and so FINMA said, okay guys, let's set up like a guideline just to provide some instruction. And of course, the message here is that also FINMA, when reading through different requests for issuances, they realize that actually every request is different. And so it's not possible just to write down a set of strict rules, but just a guideline. And that's why, because according to FINMA, it's not possible to generalize. And so FINMA will base its assessment on the underlying economic purpose of each ICO, so ICO, they are receiving. And of course, since it's a Swiss-based regulators, most particularly when there are indications of an attempt to circumvent existing regulations. So that's actually also one purpose of the FINMA guidelines, is really just to set rules to avoid that any kind of ICO will be done just to circumvent any regulations. So we can start with the tokens. So this point was already touched, of course, so I will probably go fast. Top of it. According to FINMA, they managed to identify 3 different types of token. We have the simple one, probably the most known one, which is called the payment token, which can also be called as cryptocurrency. So as you can see here, so payment tokens are tokens which are intended to be used now, of course, or in the future, as a means of acquiring goods or services, and also to transfer money. So cryptocurrency gives rise to no claims on the issue, of course, in this case. Then we have another one, which is the utility token. And when we speak about utility token, that's slightly different, because when we enter in a utility token transaction, actually you're not buying any goods, but you are entitled to use a service. And then the focus probably of today will be more on the asset token. As you can see here, asset token represents assets such as debt or equity claim on the issuer. Asset token promise, for example, a share in future company earnings or future capital flows. In terms of their economic function, therefore, those tokens are analogous to equities, bonds, or derivatives. And this is exactly where FINMA want to focus when they are speaking about guideline regulations. And you will understand in a second why. But first of all, actually, there is just, of course, a gray area, because it's not possible to probably distinguish clearly every token in one of these 3 categories. That's why also FINMA, so the Swiss regulators, when they were describing the concept of the token, they also created, let's say, this new terminology, which is about hybrid token. So they say, of course, a token can be seen as a cryptocurrency, can be seen as a way of payment, as well as a way of holding company shares, which is a quite innovative concept, right? Which is only happening in cryptocurrency. So you can have an equity. It means that you own a company, but in the meantime you can also use that equity to buy a good, right? So that's quite a new concept here. since we were saying that FINMA actually is focusing on the classification of the token as securities, because of course it's where they want to focus when they are issuing guidelines, there is like a clear description of, let's say, when a token recognized as securities is defined as this, right? So we are speaking about standardized, certificated, or of course uncertificated securities, derivatives, and intermediate securities, like which are suitable for mass standardized trading. And there is like an example here, i.e. so they are publicly offered for sale in the same structure and denomination. I'm just reading this because this exactly comes from the FINMA regulator, so of course we cannot really change the word, but we just need to have an extract from the guideline. And here there is exactly the indication about the numbers of clients, so which needs to be more than 20 clients to be recognized as a securities token. So actually, I tried already probably to solve this question. This is a question for you. So when we are speaking about tokens, so we clearly understand that hopefully not all the tokens have to be seen as securities, so as a way to own company, a part of a company or share of a company. And specifically, we only have the asset tokens, right, which are defined and regulated by FINMA. So of course, payment tokens, since are payment tokens, you cannot define that as a part of owning a company, of course. As well, the asset tokens, of course, they clearly represent a way to invest in a company. That's why FINMA really want to clarify. And also the point, one important message here is that whenever you want to issue a token, you are not forced to ask FINMA to regulate yourself. But of course, if you have the FINMA approval, which is like the top regulator in Switzerland, this will definitely bring added value to your issuing, right? So that's why there is a benefit of going to FINMA and ask, hey, please FINMA, can you go through all my documentation and provide me with the approval or the green light for the issuance? And that's why also exactly having the guideline will be definitely easier for anyone who want to set up an ICO. Of course, stick to the guidelines, go to FINMA, it's easier because FINMA will definitely be happy, let's say, to see someone which follow the rules. There is like good and bad things about being recognized as a securities token. And of course, we have like some legal implication where we speak about securities token. So the issuing of tokens that are analogous or equities one can also result in a prospectus requirement, for instance. So you need to come up with a prospectus as you are issuing a bond, which is of course additional work to do. And this is the most important thing, right? Of course, so even if you are planning to issue a new token in the future, you are planning to sell it, anyway, the guideline, the requirements still apply, right? So in case of a pre-financing and pre-sale phases of an ICO, which confer claims to account tokens in the future, these claims will be also treated as securities. So this is really important, right? Because sometimes we know about companies which are just trying to raise money to plan for a future ICO, which means that in Switzerland you can raise money already with an approval provided by FINMA before actually also issuing the ICO, which is actually good. And of course, main question here is about, okay, when a company needs to apply for a banking license in Switzerland, when we are thinking about, say, issuing money or otherwise like taking the money and create a saving account for a client. So that's, of course, makes a difference. And here we see that the primary purpose of the Banking Act is to protect the public, of course, in Switzerland and everywhere in the world, I would say, particularly bank creditors and their deposits. The issuing of token is not generally associated with claims for repayment on the ICO organizer, and such token do not therefore fall within the definition of deposit. So which means that the securities token, since are only meant to be a way to own part of the company, for instance, they are not considered, let's say, creating the need for the company in this case to apply for a banking license. That's clear, that's really, really important, but of course that's why FINMA said, hey guys, but we can have the situation where we have securities token and we have an hybrid position where you can have like a way of payment plus a security token, and in this way, for this reason, you need to apply for banking license, right? So you need to be really clear when you go to the Swiss regulator before an issuance, explaining them, no, we are not expecting the client to give us the money and then the client is not expecting to receive back the money in the future at a certain value. Otherwise, this will qualify as, let's say, taking the money from the client and create the concept of the deposit, which means need to apply for a banking license. And here actually is probably more simple, the concept. So there are liabilities with debt capital characteristic, promises to return capital with a guaranteed return. The funds raised are treated as deposits, and there is a requirement under the Banking Act to obtain a license. So that's absolutely important and clear, because of course this will definitely create additional workload as we might know, to apply for a banking license. And then here we have the issue about the Anti-Money Laundering Act. So of course, when we speak about bank, we speak about probably bank in Switzerland, but everywhere else in the world, we need always to face this point here, right? So any company which aim to, let's say, issue a token needs to face this dilemma about do I need to comply with anti-money laundering law? And actually, that's why we started with distinguishing between 3 different tokens. Not for all of them, you need to comply with the anti-money laundering law, and in particular, not for the security ones. But of course, if you provide any service to convert money, move money, hold the money, convert cryptocurrency in fiat currency, of course, in this case, you need to face these anti-money laundering rules. And that's why as well, if you want to just raise a company, issue debt or equities, you don't have to. So you need to be clear to FINMA, the regulators, that, okay, guys, I don't want to deal with the anti-money laundering issue. And this is exactly a summary of what I was saying. So the issuing of a payment token, so the normal cryptocurrency we are used to know, constitutes, of course, the issuing of a mean of payment subject to this regulation as long as the token can be transferred technically on a blockchain infrastructure. This may be the case at the time of the ICO or only, of course, at a later date. So in this case, you need to apply for an anti-money laundering rule. So under the current FINMA practice, the exchange of cryptocurrency for fiat money or different cryptocurrency falls under the Act 2. If you want to, let's say, have a nice read, you can definitely take a note. And here we are saying that, of course, in case of a utility token, so the anti-money laundering regulation is not applicable, as long, of course, as the main reason for issuing the token is to provide access to a non-financial application on blockchain technology. Otherwise, of course, they will also fall under the anti-money laundering. It's not that exciting topic, but unfortunately needs to be said. Actually, these are the information we wanted to give you. I don't know if there are questions, hope so. We can also take the question later at the gala dinner. Happy to discuss with all of you in case you are interested about understanding how the regulation works in Switzerland in terms of blockchains and which are the main companies which are working there, and maybe some business opportunities over there for you. Otherwise, I'm over. We are simply done. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks, guys.